Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, the Wise Guy. Today is January 14th, 2025. As fires in LA rage out of control, conservatives across the country, and sadly even some here in California, have taken to the internets to cast blame on Democrats for having played political jockeying games with tax dollars and failing to provide LA with the appropriate funding and resources for the fires. However, it has been a few days, and ever since, Republican leaders are now talking about tying much-needed disaster aid to political spending bills in the future, to the sound of crickets chirping and mice farting within the hallowed pews of your local church. The party of both sidesism is lost on the irony that has been laid to rest this day. So if you enjoy news, history, and general Americana, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Sit as bell. Take your shoes off. Throughout the week, we have all seen the true colors of the members of our lives who have been quick to tell us how much politics doesn't matter, and they need to get us to come together until they can use it against their political enemies. You see, from House Speaker Mike Johnson declaring that California wildfire aid needed to be conditional to the senator from Florida but somehow represents Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, when he said flat out, and I quote, "Oh, they don't deserve anything, to be honest with you, unless they show us they're willing to make some changes." First off, I need to cover something because it's kind of bothered me for a while. Tubers are large root growths that store nutrients for plants. Some are referred to as potatoes. Ville is a French suffix for a city or town, so I henceforth refuse to use some other language here in America because we speak English. He is now going to be referred to as Tommy Potato City Tuberville. And second, what Yam Central over here doesn't seem to comprehend is how much funding he may need if a hurricane barrels over Florida and or actual state he's supposed to be leading. But now I want to stop joking for a moment and talk specifically to my conservative viewers. Please, objectively. How on earth is it not a nanny state when the government refuses to help people literally burning alive because they aren't politically aligned with the executive office? Where the hell are my small government conservatives? I have such a problem with just conservatives in my own life, personally, when it comes to both sidesism and phony outrage, but this is unbelievable how quickly y'all are showing your inability to be mature, rational, and decent human beings. The irony are all of those conservatives who not only wanted to try and convince you that the government leaders are to blame for a drought, wildfire, and simultaneous hurricane force winds, but that they're perfectly fine with letting the government leaders exacerbate the issue by failing to address what is necessary. Yet another example of the list of reasons conservatives hold Democrats to higher standards than themselves. This also goes even personal for me. After I saw the real true colors of the Bible Belt conservatives in my life, in a desperate hour of national tragedy, I poked a little fun at Trump for wanting to rename the Gulf of Mexico by, in my meme, renaming it to the Gulf of Least Educated States. Aside from Florida, that observation is not only staggeringly accurate, but I was told by a more conservative person in my life that I shouldn't put people down. It isn't because they personally would like to see more kind-hearted behavior across the board, because that was perfectly fine when it comes to voting for Trump and supporting his MAGA cohorts, some of them proudly waving swastikas through city streets. Somehow, my pointing out that the governments of the people utterly failed them when it came to their education is me pushing the envelope too far. This false dichotomy of decency wherein it is perfectly explainable to say, hey, I don't expect him to be a saint when it comes to the twice impeached, fully convicted sexual predator who prides himself on making up stupid, buffoonish nicknames for his political opponents. But when somebody says one little thing that may be offensive to those who subscribe to such brain drivel, it's pearl clutching, and decades of shamelessness finally boiling to the top. Cut the shit. It has been a decade. Let me tell you that if you voted for or helped elevate the man who is about to take office in less than a week but can't handle a bit of truth when it comes to actual problematic issues like embracing authoritarians or oligarchy, racism, misogyny, or worse, theocracy with a white nationalist flavor, then you are singly and personally one of the primary examples of why we are where we are today. Hear me when I say I do not feel bad for the bullshit. I am all about decency, but that only goes as far as it takes me. When that decency isn't reciprocated, game on. I don't give a flying fart whether the feelings of those who are ushered in what may very well be the darkest periods in our nation's history when it comes to interpersonal relationships across the board are a little hurt when I call out how completely and historically underserved educationally most of them are, and have been for decades. It is a measurable statistic at this point. The most conservative and religious states have the worst education. It isn't a flaw. It's a feature. And again, beyond the exception of Florida, which let's cut through some of the muck there as well, Florida's college preparedness is solid and their college graduation rates are indeed high. But go ahead and hit me up with those stats on the lowest income areas of K through 12 and tell me how successful those education systems are, because they consistently get ignored for state funding. Hide behind your U.S. World News stats all you want. Keep in mind, Florida is one of the few states that counts GEDs as a graduation, which means that those numbers are inflated. They're cooking the books, and don't accurately reflect against other states. Please do more actual digging into these things before touting these statistics, because it just serves to continue failing our public school learners. Like much in the Sunshine State, it's all about keeping up with appearances and turning a blind eye to their actual problems. It makes as much sense as, crying when the buildings you put on a barrier island keep getting destroyed by storms. Ignore the underlying issue and cry foul at insignificant happenstance. I am over it. The far right is trying to create their own little Taliban clad in red, white, and blue, and I'm not going to be a part of it. When I say be decent, I don't mean capitulate to indecency. When I say stay decent, that also most certainly means stand up for the marginalized and underserved. There has been a constant expectation that liberals need to be quiet and exemplify what we wish to see in all people, and I absolutely agree with the latter part of that sentiment. The problem is when so many hateful people are so loud about their shitty behaviors and worst thoughts, we can't be quiet. There was a little phrase I grew up with, and I kind of find it fitting for the moment. Don't mistake or confuse my kindness for weakness. I think I'll just leave it at that. So if you're completely devoid of wisdom or knowledge in either firefighting or water management in California or even civil engineering, please keep your opinions to yourself. At this point, as I record this, fire chiefs have come out to say that yes, having more firefighters would have been beneficial and having 100% firefighting capabilities would have been helpful. This is a catastrophic event that still would have been regardless. Drought and heat, exacerbated by climate change, is also to blame. But when you won't see a single conservative ready to have that talk, even now, what's the point in even talking? If you can't offer help or even words of kindness while your fellow Americans are burning alive, maybe sit this one out on Facebook. Y'all come back now. You hear?